The Foundation for Independence is a pressure group to make sure that the government deliver on what people said that they wanted during the referendum campaign and what the government promised that they would deliver during the general election campaign. We are still in the throes of a very complex negotiation with the European Union for the rest of this year on our future relationship. And of course, the forces of Remain and Rejoin are alive and well. So it's really important that we have a body of people who are cross-party, who actually represent Remainers who have decided that they want to leave the European Union, and also Brexiteers, to make sure that the democratic will of the British people is delivered. Within that group, we're also setting up an independent business network, because for far too long business groups have not represented their business communities properly. Lots and lots of businesses, particularly family owned and family run businesses, who are the majority of businesses in the UK, want to seize the opportunities that Brexit will provide, and also need help in overcoming some of the barriers that will be created. The business groups that exist at the moment have represented the narrow vested interests of those who are interested in maintaining the status quo. A lot of people will ask the question, why a new Brexit group at all? After all, we have officially left the European Union and the job is done. But of course that isn't true. We have for the rest of the year a complex negotiation on our future relationship with the European Union. There are also forces of Remain and Rejoin, which are throughout the establishment, the Whitehall, Parliament, the business community, who are pretty keen on making sure that we don't properly leave and don't fulfil the democratic will of the British people. It's very important that we don't desert the field, as happened in 2016, and leave it to the government simply to devise what leaving looks like. We've actually got to keep the pressure up to make sure that people have delivered to them what it is that they voted for, which is a proper Brexit. And the group is a cross-party group which will actually provide that pressure on the government, will produce policies, will consult with the wider business community who want to seize the opportunities that Brexit provides, and put that pressure, that necessary pressure, on the government to make sure that they do deliver. Of course, people will want to know where the Foundation for Independence and the Independent Business Network are actually coming from. What sort of people are involved? What are their political leanings? Well, we've designed the organisation to have political balance. The co-founder, honorary president and treasurer of the organisation, John Mills, is of course a Labour donor and Labour supporter. Brendan Chilton, a director of the organisation, and the chief executive is very much a Labour person. Daniel Hodson and myself, John Longworth, are Conservatives. We will have a group of people who will form a policy committee for the foundation, who will come from all political backgrounds and no political backgrounds. The Independent Business Network will have within it people of all political shades who run businesses, who are self-employed, ranging from independent traders like electricians and plumbers, right up to large businesses that are family owned and family run. So the organisation is really coming together because of a common purpose, and that common purpose is to see us have a proper Brexit and to make the very best of that proper Brexit, seizing the opportunities for the UK and having a new, bright and prosperous Brexit future. So often people ask me, what are the benefits of leaving the European Union? And of course a lot of people have actually had their fingers in their ears and singing la la on this subject, not least large parts of the media. But when you scratch the surface and have a look, there are lots and lots of benefits to the British people and to the economy from leaving the EU. Of course, the principal reasons that people voted to leave were the promises to take back control of our laws, including our courts, to take control of our borders, including immigration and defence and security, and also to take control of our money, including trade and the money that we would otherwise give to the EU, which can now be spent in the UK. A lot of those issues are issues of politics and liberty. It's about voting for people that we can throw out. It's about ruling ourselves. It's about having courts that decide what's best for the British people within the law, but within the UK, rather than having an alien court actually decide what's best for us, even though we have no real control over those decisions. So apart from the politics, we also have major benefits from leaving the European Union in terms of the potential economic upsides. A lot of the stuff we can do ourselves unilaterally without any deals with anybody else. The European Union forces us to levy taxes on everyday items so that food and consumer goods, the things that everybody buys every day of the week, actually can cost up to 40% more than they ought to, because there's an external levy designed to protect continental businesses at the expense of British consumers. That we can get rid of, and we can make that decision ourselves. And we can do trade deals around the world. Why not with our Commonwealth partners, with the United States, with China and other countries around the world, with whom we have most of our trade. Don't forget that nearly 60% of our trade is conducted with the rest of the world and not with the EU. And of course, the domestic business community and economy is equally important. 70% of all activity is domestic. If we can free that domestic activity up to be more efficient and rebalance the economy towards the regions and away from purely the southeast, that'll be a major benefit to people. We have to remember, only 8% of our gross domestic product is associated in any way with exports to the EU. It's a very small percentage. It's the tail wagging the dog. The Foundation for Independence has a big job to do. We will be lobbying government and politicians of all parties to get the message across of the benefits of Brexit and the things that they should be doing to actually fulfil the promises that they gave to the British people during the referendum campaign and the general election. We'll be bringing that information to the public through media briefings, through the newspapers and through social media, and that will be on a regular basis. And the Independent Business Network, which we are establishing as part of the foundation, will also be able to communicate with the business community, and we'll have a truly democratic business representation, enabling businesses to actually vote real time on key policy issues and express what they want, which is best for their businesses and the economy from the Brexit process. So a really dynamic organisation that will be responding to events and to the developing policy landscape as our negotiations on future relationship develop and as we start to implement policies after this year, which will really affect people's lives. So the Foundation for Independence really needs your support. You can sign up as a supporter for the foundation on the website. You can follow us on social media, and if you feel that you can afford it, you can make a donation, which will really help us to continue to provide the things that we need to get Britain out of the European Union properly. And if you're a business and you're actually signing up to the Independent Business Network, you can also subscribe to the Independent Business Network, and you can give us our views through the website. People often ask me, is Boris Johnson's government doing a good job on Brexit? Well, some and some. You know, the Independent Business Network and the Foundation for Independence will both support and complement the government when they do the right things for Brexit, and we will also criticise and put pressure on them when they're not doing the right things. So far so good, you might say. The government have actually talked tough and set out their stall for the negotiations on our future relationship. But then there are other policy decisions that have been made which are curious. You have to ask yourself, for example, if we're going to develop infrastructure in the UK using the money that we're now saving from our EU contribution, what has HS2 got to do with the north of England? How can we possibly trade the world if we have insufficient airport capacity? I mean, those are just two examples of policy decision making that we might find curious. So at this stage, I would say that Boris Johnson's government gets a big tick for its rhetoric, but we will see in the coming months whether in fact they do really deliver for Brexit and for the British people.